welcome to Meet Your Inspiration podcast with Meri and Rich. Here we're talking about inspiration, motivation, and empowerment. Our guests are ordinary people who became extraordinary, and sharing their experience, we want to help you to go beyond your dreams and to achieve your goals.
So this morning we'd like to welcome Dan. Welcome to the podcast,
Thank
Dan.
you very much.
Here we are at Hempstead House again, our lovely host for the day. We would truly recommend you come along and experience the facilities here. It's a great hotel. They do fantastic food. The rooms are amazing, and it really is a great place to stay. So it's really good. So Dan, thank you very much for joining us this morning for our podcast on the Meet Your Inspiration podcast. This morning we've got quite an interesting subject.
Mm-hmm.
So you run Level Up.
I do.
And a Level Up is specialised in SEO optimization.
Yep.
Now, I think all of us, anyone involved in anything to do with the internet, if we've got our own website, we all wonder how the magic of the internet works and how we get followers and people to come along to our website. And Dan is the man.
That's where we come in. Yeah. You'll be amazed. So many people, when I say to them, we do SEO, they look at me as if I'm talking German and they say, what's that? So a lot of people don't actually even understand what SEO, search optimization, is. In a nutshell, we basically get businesses to appear higher on Google so they get more eyes on the business. So if you was a physical shop front and you was in a place like Bluewater or a shopping centre, you get footfall walking past it. So when you're a service business or you have got a bricks and mortar shop, Google is the largest website in the world. So, you know, when you start a business and you have a new website on there or a new Google profile, you're literally down the bottom. So no one's ever going to find you really. So what we do is we get the businesses up the top, ranking for the keywords that they want to be found for. So if you're a plumber, for argument's sake, and you're based in Essex, when people type in plumber in Essex, boiler installation in Essex, all these different, keywords, we can get them there, appearing there. So yeah, quite a lot that goes into it, but in a nutshell, that's what we do for our clients.
But how this work then on, because obviously you've got competitions, you've got at least 50 plumbers in Essex, let's say. And if everybody does that, how it works actually for everyone? It
is a tough one. So especially with like the home services, it is a hugely saturated sort of market. One of the first clients we got was a tiler in London. Thousands of tilers in London. And the reality is, if you're not necessarily a one-man band, but if you're a small team and you've got subcontractors, etc., and you're going up against some massive, like national, like you're never. The reality is, you're never going to outrank a huge national corporation, but you can knock on the door and you can get close. With SEO, it doesn't happen overnight. It really is. It's if you're doing it and you're investing into it, it's a long-term thing, because when you make changes, it can sometimes take around 3 months for Google to even pick up on them changes, if that makes sense. Wow. So it can take a while. There's tricks of the trade that you can do it, and the reality is that you may be, normally when you find a business ranking at the top, they are using either an in-house SEO team or they're outsourcing it. So it is competitive. It's just a time game, and obviously we've got little tricks of the trade that we can sort of get
and
there or thereabouts.
And probably someone it is style in London, but you've got something specific or something interesting that is doing that might help as well.
Yeah, so the way it's all done on sort of like keywords. So I'll go back to the plumber analogy. So if you're a plumber in Essex, the search volume for plumber in Essex or Essex plumber is going to be in the thousands. So obviously we have the tools and the database, and we use a tool called SEO tool called SEMrush. We can see what people are searching for and the volume that has per month. However, we also have a thing called a keyword difficulty. So you can see how easy it will be to rank for that keyword. So if you're like a relatively new business and you're trying to rank for the term plumber in Essex, you're never going to do that straight away. So what we have to do is we have to target keywords that still have a decent search volume, be nowhere near the main one, that maybe has like, I don't know, between 100 and 300 search volume per month, but to rank for it is doable. So it's like you start small and then you work your way up, if that makes sense. And that's why SEO takes time, because to get to them big keywords, it might be a year down the line from when you started.
Is it SEO just about the websites, or this affect the social medias as well?
So LinkedIn essentially has its own algorithm. So I've read numerous blogs and posts that LinkedIn has its own SEO search algorithm, and LinkedIn is one of the biggest websites in the world now, especially for B2B. So when you search for something, and this is more like from a B2B service, so say for argument's sake, if you wanted to have a new some commercial insurance for argument's sake, you might Google that, and then on the Google search results, you will get a LinkedIn profile of a particular business come up.
Very often when you Google,
Yeah.
how LinkedIn profiles are coming instead of website even sometimes.
Yeah.
They want the website of the business, but they come up with
exactly,
LinkedIn
and LinkedIn sometimes can be more personable because you're dealing with that particular the person who you'll be dealing with. Sometimes on a LinkedIn profile, you bizarrely get more information than you would from a website because you see real posts on what they're talking about and all the rest. So I think as time goes on, LinkedIn will become more and more of an SEO hotbed, if you will, and you'll be getting more search results. And people are only starting to scratch the surface with how to use LinkedIn properly. And part of what we're doing now, we're looking at, it'll probably be in the new year, but we're looking at rolling out a secondary service that will be SEO for LinkedIn directly. Because even though it has the same fundamentals, it's a different ball game altogether. So it's about obviously learning it and all the rest.
Sounds quite interesting. How we're gonna go back to your business a bit later. Tell us how all started for you, and did you start to deal with IT things back in the time? Or?
It's a random one. So I left school as soon as I finished my GCSE. So I just turned 16. And I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I was never really fussed about going to uni or anything like that. And I just got a job in a shop, so I worked in retail up in Bluewater, and I'd done that for a couple of years, and it was okay. But I was very young, going out drinking on the weekends. All my shifts, I was hungover normally. But the thing I liked about that was we used to get sales targets on who could sell the most suits and shoes, and I was always, winning basically, and I enjoyed that element to it. And then after a couple of years of working there, I didn't have a clue what I thought. Retail is not for me long term. All my mates were at uni and I felt like I was missing out. So I just made a snap decision one day that I wanted to go abroad and do something different. So I decided that I was going to go to Australia, and literally within the space of about 3-4 weeks of deciding that, I sold my car and I went to Australia. The plan was to only do it for about 3 months, just to sort of have a little bit of a stopgap. And went over there. I was by myself. I was 19, so I was very young, other side of the world. And within the first day, I met a couple of lads from Sheffield who was in a hostel. We got on really, really well. And after a couple of weeks, I was fortunate enough to get myself a job. And this was my first proper sort of sales job, if you will. And the guy who interviewed me, he said, like, what do you want to do? And I said, I haven't got a clue. I said, but I've always enjoyed the business development side of things and the sales side. And he said, well, luck would have it. He said, I've just sold he was like a millionaire, lived in Bristol, sold his business, moved to Australia to basically start a new life for him. And he was starting a new business. And he said, I need a salesperson. Do you want to come on board? And that's where it sort of began. That's where my career was always sort of sales focused. And I've worked in loads of different industries. When I come back from Oz, I spent a couple of years there. I worked in car sales. I've done an estate agent for a bit. I've worked in various different business development jobs. And I remember at the time I would change jobs quite frequently, and my family used to get annoyed with me saying, you've just got to stick to one. But I knew that everything I was doing, I was learning little chunks of information.
That's a huge amount of experience.
Huge. Yeah. And I work with some good companies. I work with some really, really bad companies, but even the bad companies, you would learn something valuable from. And then, and then I sort of naturally, as I got a bit older in my career, I sort of gravitated into the IT world. So like IT sales, started to run teams, run business development and make sure that the team was hitting their sales targets and all the rest of it. And then naturally I started to gravitate more into like the techie space. The reason why I got into SEO essentially is lead generation. So being a salesperson, every single job I've had, I never had enough leads, basically. It was always about me going out and cold calling and knocking on doors, etc. And I thought, how nice would it be if sometimes the phone would ring in and say, yo, I've seen your website or something like that. And I thought there's a market in this. And a lot of the companies that I worked for previously, they were quite old school. So obviously the directors were very, well, back in my day, we used to go out and knock on doors, and don't get me wrong, that still works to a certain extent. However, we're now in,
have to get a bit more
of course, and the internet is where, if you can crack that, and if you can crack social media, then you can get the inbound leads coming in. So that's where the idea was born, essentially. Sort of do my own thing and help businesses get more leads, but I didn't really know how I was going to do that. The idea initially was to run Facebook adverts for tradespeople. So I've got a few sort of friends that have their own sort of trade businesses. Had a conversation with them about it, and sort of tested the water. Essentially, done a few sort of courses and found stuff on YouTube, and just went with it, and it worked quite well straight away.
Knowledge back then, it comes because obviously you had the idea, you want to do it. You just do small courses and things.
Yeah,
you didn't invest in something big.
No, it was literally just sort of go with the flow and see what happens. The previous job I was at, I was still in employment, and at the time everything was going quite well, and I had no inkling or desire to essentially leave that. This was almost going to be like a bit of a side hustle. And then what happened was I worked there for about 3 years, ran the team. They had like yearly awards, and I'd won like best salesman on the trot for like 3 years. Anyway, me and my wife got pregnant with our first child, and he was due in July. So like a lot of businesses, they allow the men to have time off, but you don't get paid for it. So I said, obviously, having a new family, I can't not earn. So I saved all my holiday throughout the course of that year to basically have 2 to 3 weeks off when he was born. And then the day he was born, he's absolutely fine now, but he was quite poorly when he was born. He had like a week in sort of incubator, and we didn't really know what was wrong with him. And I remember I called up my boss because he was born on the Friday, so I had the weekend. He still was like poorly, and on the Monday I called them up and I said, look, been here 3 years. I said, I've never asked for anything. I said, I feel really hard done by if I have to have my first week of holiday looking at my son in hospital, not knowing what's wrong.
Absolutely.
I said, could you do me a favour? Could you just give me like a week? And then there was like and ahhing, I'm not too sure. I said, just, do what you got to do. And then when you come back, we'll talk about it. And then nothing was mentioned. And then when I come back, like he was in hospital for a week, and then he come out and he was all fine. And then I had 2 weeks home. So I had 3 weeks off. And then when I got my pay slip come through, they docked me a week's wages for that. And they never communicated it. So I was very much like, now it's time to go. I had this idea. It was scary. Me and my wife had numerous conversations. What do we do? I was giving rid of a company car and a wage and all the rest of it. But I said,
there's a big hole to fill at that point.
Huge. Like my wife used to be a manager for Wilco, so they went bust as well when she was pregnant. So literally we had like a little bit of redundancy from that, but life is very expensive now. It wasn't enough. So it really was like, what do we do? And she could just tell that I had this idea. I knew I could make it work. And I said, it's left a real sour taste in my mouth now. And I stayed there for a good sort of couple of months after, still building Level Up in the background very slowly. But my head had gone. I didn't want to work for them anymore. And it just, it got quite nasty and quite sour like through that. So, I made the plunge and then I left.
Had you been doing during that time? Had you done anything on search engine optimization during that work?
So through my networking, so I started doing networking when I worked at the previous company, and I met in one of my groups, I met a search engine optimization guy, and a bit like a lot of people now, I didn't really understand what it was at the time. And then I got a natural, very rare that I find something that I get like quite passionate about something unless it's football. And I just almost fell in love with what SEO was, and it gripped me. So when I was sort of starting Level Up, I had numerous conversations to use an SEO agency for the previous firm, and then that's what sort of gave me the idea. When I made the plunge, I think it was about a month before, I think it was around Christmas time, my brother-in-law, he's also in the SEO game, and he's really high up for a London firm. And we was having conversation, I think it was on Boxing Day, I'm sure it was, after a couple of beers and a couple of glasses of red, and we were just having a conversation. I said, my business is called Level Up Leads. I said, I need to make sure that I can give people leads. And he said, why don't you look at SEO for yourself, but do it on a local scale? And then he helped me initially, and I've invested in training courses, and all my spare time I'm on YouTube or something, learning. And then I feel now, and it's took me about a good 6 months to fully understand SEO, and it changes all the time because you've got AI now and all the rest of it. But yeah, like we're there, and it is very much learning on the job essentially, which is a risk. But yeah,
if
it's
you
worked
keep
out.
it up, in the meantime, it's not something that you can get bored, isn't it? Because it's constantly
Yeah,
changing. It's a bit like in accounts. You always need to be up to date what's going on about the new,
yeah,
With
or
tax and
like
everything,
lawyers.
yeah.
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 It's keeping you on the track.
So yeah, it was very much this time 2 years ago. I've always wanted my own business, always, and I knew I wanted to do something to help get people lead generation. What that was going to look like, I don't know. And it's just, I'm a believer in everything happens for a reason, and all the events that have happened leading up to this has led me in this particular path. And you have to have an interest in it, of course,
Yes.
and
the passion that you mentioned.
yeah, that's it.
Obviously, once you got that, it's
Yeah.
just driving you to go and to do and to learn.
Exactly. And you know, we work with some real nice clients now, and we get them genuine good results. Like one of the guys we had on, it takes about 3 months, I'll say, to get some serious results. We've improved their profile by 8,500% in 3 months. So obviously, in terms of what that's doing for that business, it's huge, and it's all about getting their phone ringing more and getting more inquiries through their website. And
Have they got an online shop?
I haven't got, no, it's not a product. It's a service based business, and what we do as well. So we focus purely on the local side, like I mentioned. So we don't actively do much work on the website direct. Our focus is on the Google business profiles. So when you Google something,
what mean Google business profile? Let's say we absolutely new in that.
Yeah.
I'll be absolutely authentic. I'm not gonna hide. We don't know too much. We are learning on the way. So we do have a website. Does this mean that we've got a Google profile? Whatever?
Depends if you set one up.
So what does it mean? A bit more
Google business profile essentially is your Google Maps. So say like if you're in a new location and you want to go, so when you interviewed the last couple in Nottingham, you might decide you want to go out for dinner.
Yeah.
If you don't ask the receptionist at the hotel, you would normally pick your phone up and you would type in restaurants near me, right? And then the first thing that appears is you normally get a sponsored link. So no matter what you're searching for, a sponsored link is a pay-per-click. So people are paying to be at the top of Google, and every time someone clicks on that ad, it costs that business money. Directly underneath that, you have the Google Maps, which is the Google business profile, and it always shows you 3 businesses to start with, and you click on it, it brings up a list of more. So your Google business profile, it's almost like a little mini introduction to your website. It has photos, it has a list of your services, it has your reviews, it can have updates from the business owner, so any offers, etc. And then when people are interested, they would then click on the website, and then essentially the website almost seals the deal. Underneath the Google business profiles, you then have the website organic stuff. So ranking well on a website from an organic is really important if you want to have a national reach. So say like if you're a business and you service the whole of the UK, the local SEO is not going to work, because if you're based in Kent and you have someone in Manchester, they're never going to find you on a local scale. But what we do as a business is we work with anyone over the UK, but it's to help you get business in your immediate location, and that's from the Google business profile, if that makes sense.
Okay, now makes definitely
Yeah.
sense. So as you said, it's not something that you work directly with the website. It's a bit more that Google account to help.
So I'd say
lead to the
70% of the optimization will be done on the Google business profile itself. So, and again, it's all done on sort of keywords and just making sure the profile looks as good as it can. Little trick now. So you have a thing called Google Vision API. So years ago, if you had a picture of a tree and you want to put that on your website, you'd have a thing called alt text. So on the back of the photo or the picture, you would write tree. So Google understands that image is a tree. As now, you haven't got to do that. Google can identify that picture and it will say it's 80% tree. There might be a pigeon in the corner and it picks everything up. Wow. So what we do on the photos is we make sure they're fully optimized. So we actually include the logo on there. We put a bit of text. So say when we're working with a commercial landscaper, obviously we're getting into the autumn now. We chose a picture from their Facebook of them doing a leaf blower, and I've put commercial landscape, and they're in Sittingbourne, funny enough. So Google can read that image now, and then them keywords are included within that. So most of what we do is on the Google business profile. But because the website is linked to the profile, you've got to do what you call on-page SEO. So it's almost like a checklist. You've got to make sure that it's location specific. You've got to make sure you've got meta descriptions, titles, stuff like that. So there is work to be done on the website to complement the profile, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then that's what will put the profile up, because it's the whole local on page SEO. There's 153 points, things you have to do. So it's a lot.
How many people you got in your team?
So the team, we've got 4 actually in the office, and then I've got someone that sort of freelances as and when. We are at a stage where we're going to have to take someone on in the new year, 100%.
When you start 2 years ago, you said, or how old is your
so officially the business is on the books a year old.
And when you start, was it the same team, or it was just
no. It was literally just me. I was very fortunate. So I'll again, everything happens for a reason. So I was doing this myself, started doing the SEO, and I got reintroduced, sort of bumped into, we call each other business partners, but we've got 2 separate businesses. What happened was, a guy that I used to work with years ago, we've been on Facebook, and we sort of essentially stay in touch, but we've never really had a proper conversation. We sort of crossed paths again, and we decided to go for a couple of drinks and just have a catch up, because I was like, I've got my business now. He was like, well, I've got my business. So we went for essentially a business meeting, but over a couple of beers. And turns out he's had his own web design agency and pay-per-click agency for about 4 years, working with some huge customers, like real good stuff, paying quite a bit of money on marketing to get leads in. And he said he's not a natural salesperson. So he was like, why don't you? We sort of join forces, if you will. He said, any website you sell, he said he'll fulfill it, because they've got the infrastructure in the team there, and they've got like designers and developers and coders and all the rest of it. And we just go half each on it. So I was like, yeah, done. So I was very fortunate. I've partnered up with him. We work at the same office now. We're 2 different businesses, but we might as well be the same one. And we just pass leads to each other, because if I get a website, I pass it to him. He'll basically fulfill it. Yeah. Pay-per-click, same again. He passes SEO stuff to me. So it just works. It's just like a conveyor belt of leads, essentially. So yeah, there's 4 of us, including that team. But then in the new year, I'm going to have to take someone on. I don't really know what their job will be yet, if that makes sense. But I just know I'm at the stage where I am
to go that next level.
Yeah, have to be. Like, I have got a plan to take this quite far. How big it will be, I don't really know. But I need. Yeah, you get to a state. It's grown quicker than I thought. Put it that way. So, yeah.
This was my next question. How you see? Because obviously this is I don't know if it's a competitive market, but it's definitely a big market. Almost every business we want to.
Every business, every organisation, they've all got.
Yeah.
So how are you finding it to find clients, or just probably in the beginning you need to find, and then after?
Yeah, funny enough, this week I've done like an analysis on where my clients have come from. Most of them have come from referrals now, which obviously speaks volumes. Because I've come from a sales background, when I first started this, before I sort of partnered up with the guy I'm with now, so we got an office, I was essentially working from home, and my dad during COVID built like a bar in his garden. Obviously I've got a baby at home, so at the early days I was going to sit in the bar around my dad's house, and it was, no heating in there, freezing cold, and I'm just cold calling people through the Net magazine you get posted with the letterbox. And I got a few nibbles from that, and I'm sitting there thinking, it's tough, because it's, you call them and they're like, you're the third one that's called today, and it's like 10 o'clock in the morning, and I learned very quickly that it's saturated. So I was like, you got to change tack here. So obviously I start SEOing, so I start getting a few people inbound. I do Facebook advertising every now and then, so like once every 3 months I'll do like a month campaign, and I do quite well off of that. My networking's huge, like, because it really is about relationships. And what I find is, when I started my networking journey, I was very naive, thinking that, you go to 1 or 2 meetings and then everyone's going to be like, right, let's use Dan. It doesn't, it takes time, and it takes a good 5 to 10 meetings to build a genuine relationship with someone. And then even then they might be in contract with someone else. It's not a dead cert. So I've got a nice blend now of, stuff coming in inbound, the occasional Facebook lead, networking, and referrals, so, and it is still competitive, because there's some real good marketing agencies in the Kent area that offer what we do. and we win some and they win some. And I think you can't win them all, can you?
Oh, no, of course not.
And it's also very hard. I mean, we know, like, when you start a new business and you get involved with something, you've got so many different costs you've got to do.
Yeah.
Obviously, you got the core costs of the things which you need. Like for us, was like the infrastructure bits.
Yep.
For example, on Beyond Our Dreams. But thereafter, there's a big balance between what you're learning and what you try to do yourselves.
Yeah.
And then what you think you need to spend money on to be able to grow.
Yeah.
And obviously, in anything to do with IT and outreach and social media, podcast business, you want to be able to grow that and get exposure.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you've got to build your content, and you almost it's a bit of like a chicken and egg, which you need, and it's a really tough. And I think that's probably the same for many, because as soon as you end up with a fixed monthly costs on all the different things you need to do, and then also you're thinking, well, hold on, the business isn't making any money yet. It's just sort of like it's how you sort of go. I mean, as you said, like when you started, you started and it was a crunch point. And a lot of people, I think, start a business at a crunch point.
Absolutely. I think everyone has every business owner that starts a business, I think they have the same almost epiphany at some stage. Like something happens in their life. Mine was to have a child and to have an employer that didn't support me when I needed them. And I think a lot of times people have something like that. Something might happen where they think now's the time to go.
Yeah, but not lots of people got this strength and think to go and do it, because things happen in life, and you are sitting on the sofa and you think, oh, probably that's the moment I have to, but they're not.
It took
not
real
strong to do it.
Even now, like the business is going so well, like I wouldn't say it's stress, but I still have in my mind, like I've got a goal where I need to be from a financial standpoint, and I think I'll probably get there by summer next year, and that's earlier than I thought. But until I get there, and I'm still going to have that element of, I wouldn't say doubt, but it's.
But it's always, because if you think, once I think that's the biggest difference. Sometimes we need to face it. Once you are employee somewhere, you've got your salary, you know what you're going to earn, you've got your job, you are kind of secure, except some situations, let's say, but you are secure. Once you become the boss, doesn't matter, it's getting worse when you've got people in your team, because you don't need to make sure you are right, you need to make sure that, first of all, they're okay, they are paid. And if you ask me, this is taking you not anymore 9 till 5, you are 24/7.
Yeah.
So all this needs really to have someone who is ready to do this step, because everybody got the idea, so they want to do it. And that's why I would take you definitely on this point, because when you said definitely this not supportive behavior drove you, and you were anywhere already were thinking, but I'm pretty sure the first few months, especially with the baby born, wife in maternity, how you gone through all this? Well, it was probably a moment that was a bit difficult, and you had family support as well.
Yeah. It was very much. I remember we had numerous conversations like, shall we do it? And I think she was more worried than I was, because without blowing my own trumpet, I believed I could, because I'm in my own head. I know my ethic, my work ethic, and all the rest is there. But it was still very, very challenging. In theory, we probably done it at the worst time. She literally lost her job through the business closing and having a baby. Yeah. And then when I started, I mean, we had a bit of savings, but it wasn't enough to rest on our laurels by any stretch of imagination. It had to work. In my head, I was like, if the absolute worst case scenario and I fail, I'll just have to get another sales job and be miserable. Do you know what I mean? But I obviously had that. But you have to make, you really do. And it because I do, like, and on the weekends now, because obviously I'm at work during the whole week, I say to the wife, you have an extra hour in bed, I'll get up with the boy, give him his bottle, and then when he puts his telly on, I'm normally back on the laptop, but then that's when I'm doing my studies, and I'm watching these different podcasts and with all these industry experts, and you have to make it work. But it gives you that passion and hunger, because now I'm a year into it and I see it is working and I know where it's going to go. That's, and I'm like, well, I feel very proud of it. And I think, like, my family always say they're proud, and it is still very, very early doors. But yeah, I mean, there's the stuff that's happening now, and with the new ideas that I've got for future services, and as I say, like I'm getting known now in the Kent area through the networking, and it's everything's heading in the right direction.
It's amazing, Dan, as well. I mean, the value of the networking. I mean, obviously that's how we met.
Yeah.
We've met quite a few people that we've had on the podcast through the network, and it's astonishing because and how everyone is really helpful and supportive.
Yeah,
When you meet
good.
everyone just sort of encourages each other,
Yeah.
and it's a really nice feeling as well for anyone
Yeah.
who joins some kind of networking event, because it's very easy to go and feel like nervous and quiet, but you've got to just go, stand, talk, explain what you want to get over.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are times, particularly when you go to a networking event and you've been going for a little while, you bump into lots of people and you sort of, it's very easy to talk to the group, but you also want to meet the new people who are coming in, and
Exactly.
the ones who you don't know in the room.
Exactly. And because I think I met you on your very first one at the Kent Victor.
Yes.
Mine very first one.
Yeah.
I was absolutely
She was meant to do that walk, wasn't we? And it rained, so we couldn't do it.
Yeah.
But no, and the thing is, I remember the first time I done networking. I'm a confident person, but you still get that element of thinking, because you're walking into a room with you don't know who, all business owners, all like powering people essentially, and you just don't know what it's going to be like. And I think with the Kent Victor, as good as it is, you get a lot of people there, so you can go into a room and it can literally, there's no real structure at the beginning. It's not like a BNI where you have your placemat and it's structured. It's go and have a chat. So remember your one, when I clocked you, I thought when we'll see, said hello and all the rest of it. And it is, and I think everyone that does networking, they all want the same thing. They're all there to grow the business, meet new connections, and genuinely, I haven't met a bad person during a networking event, because everyone wants the same thing essentially. And you do like, as I say, like most of our, I call them, every client's a good client, but most of our best clients have come from networking, just because they really understand who you are and what you do. Like sometimes when we get a client come on that's from like a Facebook ad, we might have like a 20-minute conversation on the phone or a Teams meeting, and then that's it. And then they sign up, which is fine. So it's like, I find in the early stages, I need a lot more hand holding, because they might not necessarily fully understand what they're purchasing, if that makes sense. Is when you go to networking, you have the same conversation with someone 5-6 times and they can really get to know you. It's, I find that them clients are, that's where networking is so good.
It becomes deeper because it's a much, much closer relationship.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And also just, I enjoy it. Like I enjoy, because running a business is hard, it's sort of in the office all the time, and I get in early, and I sometimes like going on a networking event and just having a couple of cups of coffee, and sometimes don't even talk about business. It might just be family, football, what you've done on the weekend. And it's just nice to break the norm of sitting behind a computer all day.
When you mentioned that you've always been confident, how, if you go back, can you find out what makes you to be confident? Because usually nowadays, if you go most of the 16 years old, they're not confident at all. So where did this come from?
I remember when I was at like infant school, I was never like unconfident, but I wasn't as confident as what I sort of become, and I was just a regular average kid. But I'd done karate from a young age, and I'd done that. I managed to get to a black belt status, and I was very young, and pretty much the whole time I'd done it, I wanted to quit, but my parents said, just keep going, and then I think confidence naturally from having an early discipline and all the rest of it. But I remember when I started my secondary school, I went to a school called the Howard. Don't know if you know it. It's in Rainham. It's one of the biggest. It's all boys schools, 1,700 all boys. Apparently, it's quite a good school now, but when I went, it was rough. Like it was almost like a little mini prison. It was. And it was. I've always struggled really bad with maths. So when I went to school, I was immediately in the bottom set of maths, and I was in there with the naughty kids, if that makes sense. And we didn't, because the school was so big and it was classed as a bad school, it didn't attract the best teachers. So for my whole senior school, we didn't actually have a physical maths teacher. We just had like sort of substitutes and all the rest of it. And I remember years 7 to 8, I used to like be actively quite nervous, like in these sort of environments. And then something just switched. I don't know what it was. I just got into year 9 and I just sort of become into my own, and I just become more confident. There was no sort of light bulb moment. It just, I think I the way I think now is how I started to feel back then in year 9, year 10, if that makes sense. And
You
then
didn't realise you could do it.
yeah, a little bit. And then because I think I left school and I didn't go into uni, I started working straight away. So me at the age of sort of 17, I was working with men with kids and, and I think naturally it just allowed you to grow up. And then I think going to Australia on my own at 19,
that's massive in character building.
yeah, that literally made me who I am today, I think.
Where did you go when you went to Australia?
Sydney.
Yeah.
Okay. So
you went for a big city straight away.
Yeah, I didn't really. Honestly, it was just a complete. It was a light bulb moment. I remember I was sitting there on my lunch break, and I was bored out of my head, and I'm like, there has to be more to life. I'm 19. Do you know what I mean? I'm so young, and I thought, don't want to go uni. I don't want to do that. And I was like, and then I can't remember how I found it, and there was this website called Real Gap, and it basically you can choose like a country, and then you book a flight, and they put you in touch with other young backpackers essentially. But this was before.
Did you need much? Obviously, a flight to Australia would be, I don't know, £600 or £700.
Yeah,
or
I sold. Obviously, I'm lucky to have a good family, so from what I remember, I sold my car, which I don't think my dad was happy about because he's the one that bought me the car, to pay for essentially for my flight. And then I think I saved like a month's worth of wages. It was a couple of grand that I needed.
How your parents reacted to your decision?
They thought I was joking because I literally come home and said I'm going to Australia in like 4 weeks, and yeah, and I nearly bottled it. I remember. So the night before we went out for like a family meal to say goodbye.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. So yeah, so a week before I went to Australia, me and my mates went to Ibiza, like my first lads holiday. And then when we come back, I had my passport in my shorts and I washed my passport without realising.
No.
And then I'm pretty sure we could. So yeah, I was a bit like nervous. Shall I go? Shall I not go Australia? But like, go, put your big boy pants on. And I remember I went to the check-in desk and obviously you get a visa and they said your passport and your visa, the numbers aren't matching up. And then I clocked and thought it's because I've washed my passport and I've had to get an emergency one.
Yeah.
So I said, what do I do? And they said, you can go on the plane, but there's a chance that they might not let you in. So in my head, I was like, well, that's that. I was like, I just won't go. That's the sign that I needed.
Yeah.
And I remember I called my mum and I was just like, this is what's happened. And she said, nah. She said, you go. She went, if you get kicked out, you get kicked out. And I went and they didn't even mention it. And then I was yeah. So, but yeah, going to Oz, like it was always just going to be a couple of months, and then met a group of lads. We was in a hostel for about 3 months. In the end, we was in this hostel, which obviously wasn't the most glamorous. But when you're a kid, you don't really mind, you know.
Yeah.
And then lucky enough to get a job.
Because that's a big adventure. I mean, you're literally on the other side of the world.
Yeah, it was good. And then like I could literally walk 10 minutes, and I was by the Opera House. Like I was in the hub of Sydney.
Wow. Yeah.
And then the job I got, the guy at the time, he lived in a town called Manly, which I'd never been to, and it's a 20-minute ferry ride from the Opera House. And Manly is probably one of the most beautiful places like around. Like it's honestly gorgeous. And we had an office there, and then I moved to Manly. And I had an apartment on the beach, and I was literally like 19 because over there the wages are so much more competitive than over here.
Right.
And me and the two lads I was with, they had jobs as well, and we was able to afford it, you know. And we had literally had an apartment on the beach, and then we was there for probably about a year. Then I think on like months 8 or 9, the lads were like they wanted to leave, which felt fine. So I was going to leave as well. And then I met a girl over there, and then like that changed the plans, and then I stayed there for like another year, and then I come home. So yeah, it was about 2 years in the end.
Did you ever think you'd stay?
I got offered to stay.
Did you?
So the first job I had, he said, I'll sponsor you if you want, and then I think that will give you another 4 years. But it was never my intention to stay long term. I was still so young, but I think it's a funny one because obviously now I'm married with a kid, and I would never like move now. Like I'm happy with my life, but I always think if I went to Australia maybe when I was like 23, 24, 25, and I got that opportunity, I probably would have stayed. I think it's just because I was still so.
Yeah.
But then coming back, it was hard because obviously I lived by myself for 2 years, and then I'm back under my parents' roof, which was tough. And I think they found it tough because I was like, well, I'm doing it this way, and they're like, no, you're back home now, Dan. Like you got to, you know.
Toe the line.
Yeah, literally. And it was, but it taught me so much, you know, like being independent, literally on the other side of the world.
Change you.
Yeah.
You learn probably a lot that now you can implement, and it's helping.
Yeah.
As you said, your discipline, and as you mentioned, your work ethic.
Yeah.
I'm sure all these
Absolutely. And
years there.
I think the confidence must have potentially, that was like the main catalyst, if you will, because I went over there and I made it work, you know, and I could have stayed, but I
You decided
didn't.
to come back.
And
Are you
yeah,
still in touch with this guy that?
nah, it's been
gave
so
you-
long now. I'm 34 now. I think we're still on Facebook and we like,
Okay.
yeah, but
yeah, during the years you haven't.
yeah, I mean, at the time, like when obviously I first left, I had loads of friends over there, and I've got friends that I met over there now that have emigrated over there full time, and we still have them on Facebook. And they, like, when it's my birthday, they wish happy birthday and that. But yeah, it's been I've always said to my wife, like, I'll take her there, like, and my son, because I know it sounds bizarre, but I can almost, Australia's got a smell to it, like a warm ocean, and I can smell that smell if I think about it enough.
I think a lot of countries have got some character. I remember the first time I went to Hong Kong, and it just got such a distinctive. You got off the plane almost, and you went out into the city, and it just had a distinct smell about it.
Yeah, very unique. And Oz has the same. So I want to be able to show her this is essentially where I grew up.
No, that's great.
Because it was, to a certain extent, and I will go back one stage, and as I say, with my son when he's old enough to. So that.
When you say now and mention hostel, I remember because I'm originally from Bulgaria, from the second biggest town, and we've got the old Plovdiv is absolutely brilliant, a bit like Rome, really beautiful, and there are a few hostels. One of my friends was working in a hostel for years when we were this young age, and I remember. We loved to go there to meet her because always the guests were so interesting. And if I must be honest, the first time I heard for Facebook, that was back in 2000, I don't know, 2, 3, I don't know, long time ago, I heard about Facebook. Because there were some Americans coming there and they were talking about it. So I remember my first Facebook, probably we done it there, and it was really cool, and I really liked that environment. The people were really, obviously the hostel was kind of nice hostel. And all the environment around, she made so many friends with the people, and it was all sorts of different nationalities. And most of these, how they call them, backpackers. Honestly, some of them are absolutely incredible. And because in Bulgaria you don't have, now, I don't know, up to date probably things have changed, but back in the time we didn't have this, that people travel on that age. They decide to take these gap years or whatever, where obviously Europe and the whole other world were doing it. And it was interesting. And now you mentioning that, you just took me back. And did you have as well lots of from that hostel, particularly lots of other nationalities? People,
I only had one Australian friend. And obviously I was in Oz, and he was a butcher that he worked next to my hostel, basically. We become friends. Jimmy, his name was. But all my other friends were, all over. There was loads of Swedish over there. Literally all really sort of different Europeans.
Got this nice problem that everybody talk about. It was interesting. Now you really take me back to where you see different.
I remember I used to. So what happened was when I had that first job over there, I'd done that for about a year and a half, and then when I knew that I was never going to stay over there, I got a bit bored. So I was just like, I'm going to do something a little bit different. So I got a job selling tickets on the streets of Sydney for a hair salon, right? So this hair salon package would be like, for the ladies, come, you've had a day on the plane, get your hair done, blah, blah, blah. And I've done that for about 6 months and I absolutely loved it. But by the end of it, I got so good that if I see a group of girls walking down, I could identify what nationality they were. And I can't do it now, but I learned to say hello in all the nationalities. And then, it just shows the diversity of how many different people are over there. And I remember the most bizarre thing. I'm a Gillingham fan, and Gillingham they're not a huge football club. And I remember one day I'm in this queue for McDonald's, and I turn around, there's a guy behind me in a Gill shirt, and I was just like, "How bizarre is that?" It's, like literally the other side of the world.
It becomes a small world, doesn't it?
It does.
But I do think, sort of obviously your question on this really was like sort of about how you build the confidence, and I think travel and meeting people just gives you so much confidence because you're in a room with people, and it's a bit like at the network.
It was.
It's exactly the same thing, and the environment is the same. And you suddenly realise when you're on your own, you can just reach out to people, and everybody else in that situation are actually all in the same boat as you. And everyone's just as hungry to meet each other as the others. And I think a lot of people, they go and they think they're the only person in the room who's in that situation.
Yeah.
And yet actually, like in a hostel, maybe there's 20, 30 people in the hostel, but they're all in that same boat.
Yeah,
and
very
they're
much.
moving. And so many people you meet in that situation have got they build characters. And also they've always got great interesting stories as well.
Yeah.
Particularly if they've traveled a lot.
Yeah.
They're telling you, you need to go here, you need to go there, and they've got something to share, and you always there's something to absorb back, and I think that's really good.
No, you spot on. It was like networking without really realize. I remember this because we stayed in 2 different hostels. First one was like, I wouldn't say it was nice, but it was nicer than the other one. And then when money started running dry, we went to one down the road, and that was a bit of a dive. And I remember you used to go down in this basement, and that's where the kitchen was. And you used to like queue up to like cook you, and everyone was just having pasta, and it was no glam. But that was like, I remember walking in there, and again, it was almost like I walked into this just cauldron of noise, and it was like dark and dingy, and the smell of food. And I thought, right, make your dinner, let's go sit down with people and have a chat, and then you end up going out on the beers with them and all the rest, and then you're pals with them, and it is, you just got to, and I think it's the same with business to a certain extent. Like you just have to go in head first. Like you sometimes have to make a cold call. You might have to ask someone for the business. You just, what's the worst that can happen?
Tell us a bit more about your football passion.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I was never that good at playing. I gave it a go. But so my dad took me to my first ever football game when I was 7. And I remember it very clearly. We played Plymouth and we went 1-0 down and we scored 2-1 and we won in the last minute. And then I was just hooked after that. And it's just been part of my life ever since. Like huge, when I was a kid, I had like a football room. Now I'm an adult. It's time for me and my dad. We go down there. Most home games, we'll get in the pub early doors. We'll have a catch up. We meet friends down there. We watch the football. Sometimes you leave happy. Sometimes you leave sad. And I just love it. And I cannot wait until my boy's at an age where I can take him. Pray to God he likes it. Pray to God he doesn't support Millwall or something. But yeah, I just love it. I just really do. And my good friends now who are best men at my wedding, they're huge football fans. We go together. It's and as bizarre as it sounds, football, when I'm watching a game live, it is the only thing that completely switches my brain off from everything else. Yeah. If that makes sense. Like if I'm at the gym, because I get like my brain is just full of ideas all the time, which I suppose is a good thing, but it can also be a bit of I can't fully switch off. And even if I'm at the gym, I've still got work in my mind, or I might be thinking about, I don't know, but when I'm watching football, it's almost like, it's like my meditation, as bizarre as that sounds. And then I come back and then I just like, it sort of resets my brain, if that makes sense.
Is good because it's very important nowadays in this busy life, and especially you as person having business all the time, the ideas are coming. Yeah. It's good to have your time, whatever and however you found it. Yeah. But to have this switch off, because this as well, it helps you and makes a bit more space for the new
Exactly. And one thing I'm really proud of, so because I have been a massive football fan, is I've sponsored a local lower league club, Chatham Town. So I've become a sponsor for them, and they've got like a big LED screen, and you see like your business name and that on match days. But also, again, it's from a networking point of view. They have monthly network meetings with the other commercial sponsors, and then I was umming and ahhing with this, but I've sponsored a player at Gills for the season, which is really good. And it's just nice to be able to. That obviously the dream is always to have a big house and a nice car and that, but one of my bigger dreams was to be involved with football in some capacity through the business, if that makes sense. And the plan with Gillingham is obviously, as I get bigger, I'd like to do more with it. Obviously, if I could become a sponsor on the shirt one day in 10 years, that's the ultimate. But it's just nice to be able to have such a passion of what I do with that, but being now able to just be involved very, very small amount with the business. It's like it's a proud moment. Do you know what I mean?
No, but it sounds fantastic. Yeah, of course it is proud. I think everything that you look back, you should be proud, because whenever you succeed and you make it yourself. Yeah, and you keep doing it, and definitely the only thing that you have to be is to be proud of yourself.
Yeah, no, definitely very
And
much.
this is what we like with this podcast, to show that it is happening and
Mhm.
people can do it. They just, obviously, for some people it's a bit more difficult, for some
It is,
people
yeah.
might be a bit easier way, but giving the examples of absolutely ordinary people how they can make it, this is our ultimate
It
goal.
is, yeah.
Yeah, no, it is. It's
I mean, it's similar. I mean, obviously, I mean, it's a great name as well, Level Up, which is, because you're always looking to level up to the next level.
Yeah.
And it's a great, and to be fair, associated with sport as well. I mean, to be honest, I'd imagine like Level Up was on a football shirt as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Really.
Well, that's
cool,
the thing.
yeah.
I wanted to again. I had no real sort of foundation of a plan of logo and all that jazz and name. I wanted to keep it quite generic. So obviously, as the business grows, I can go into different areas of marketing, and it's not pinned down. So if it was Level Up Facebook ads, for argument's sake, you're stuck to that.
Yeah.
And yeah, with the pink, I remember I was just sort of playing around on Canva, and I thought I always want a black background, essentially, and something that pops. And then I thought pink goes against the grain a little bit, doesn't it? So I thought it's and it looks, as I say, like when I see it down Chatham Town on like the big LED board, it does. It's eye catching. It's nice. So
it's your work, the logo, the name, everything is your
yeah, just my brain. Yeah. There was I had a logo initially that I changed quite early on. So when I first started the business, I was predominantly going to be like seeking to work with tradespeople. And my logo was almost like a bit of a house, and it was like a house that went into like an arrow. So it was like Level Up with like a house. And then when I still work with a lot of trades and construction, but I didn't want to limit myself to that. And then I think it was around March, April time just gone. And I remember looking at my logo and I'm thinking, I'm not happy. I thought, if you're going to do it now while you're still quite early. And then, I was playing around with it and then, come up with that. And it just seems it's more agency vibes, if that makes sense. And I'm happy with it now. So it's, that'll be that.
Yeah, it's good.
Did anyone play this inspiration role in your life, or mentor role in your life? Back,
I wouldn't. I mean, obviously, I'm very fortunate to. I've always had like a good family life. I'm the only one in my family that works in this industry. Like my dad he's a docker, so does like crane driving. Mum does HR. So I wouldn't say there's a particular person that's made me think, I want to essentially be like them. I just think it was a combination of having lots of different jobs and then almost seeing a gap in the market, essentially, to get more leads. Making the plunge when obviously something bad happened with a previous employer, and then just having the confidence. And I suppose you could probably say my son, to be honest with you, because if I didn't have him, I never would have had that issue with the employer. I had no real massive desire to want to do my own thing. I was quite happy, almost plodding, if you will. And then it's like an analogy. As soon as you have a kid, your brain switches. And then as soon as I had him, or I knew I was going to be a dad, I was like, I just want to be able to, number one, have the flexibility that if I want to go to sports day in a few years, I can do that. I haven't got to book a day's holiday. And also, it's in my hands. Like, if you're on a set wage, there's nothing really you can do about that. As I thought, if I work really, really hard, I can give him what he wants. And then also, in years to come, I'd like to think this can be his and all the rest of it. So I suppose, inspiration would be my 1-year-old,
it is.
Yeah.
And will remain as well, because at the end of the day, as he grows, obviously, you're still inspired and motivated to bring that success for his.
Definitely.
As a family point of view.
And one thing I've always had from my family, which is good, is they've always been very, like, they've taught me the value of money and working. So like, I've never not had a job. Like, I've had a lot of jobs, but I've never been like, no, I'm not doing it. And my parents have always said, like, you got to earn. Do you know what I mean? You've got to go out. You've got to have your own money. Like, we're not giving you like 20 quid so you can go out with your mates on a Friday night. So me doing my work ethic now, and him seeing what I'm doing, he'll also pick up on that. Even if he doesn't want to go into the family business and he might want to become a builder, he's still got to get up at the crack of dawn. Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's it. And also from my wife's point of view, so my wife's 4 years older than me. So when I when I met her, I had an okay job, but she was like a retail manager. I've been there years. Like she was the breadwinner essentially. And I remember when we met, it was a bit of not a concern for her massively, but she was going, essentially she'd like committed to someone that was 4 years younger. She always had an idea that she'd be with someone a bit older. I didn't have the best job. I didn't have my own house.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to her, like when I moved in with her, I turned up, it was a summer's day, I turned up with a fan and like a carrier bag full of like underwear and a couple of like t-shirt. Like I didn't really have much. And I was very grateful that she weren't going out of me because of the money or anything like that. But I said to her, like, I promise, like, I will make it. Do you know what I mean? Like what that looks like in terms of whether we're millionaires, I don't know, but I will be able to give you a comfortable life. Yeah. And as I say, when she went on maternity, because her business was still there at that time, I said to her, don't worry, like, it's my turn now. Do you know what I mean? So she's also a motivation with regards to...
But you've got that energy. I mean, that's an energy and motivation. You've got a goal, and when you've got a goal, you've got something to go for, and she'd see that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're not just sort of like 4 years younger. He's a good-looking lad or whatever, but like he's not really motivated.
It's lazy and it's
but there's something there.
Yeah,
and that's it, and that's what.
Yeah,
and that makes a difference. And I think in every relationship, I think it makes a difference as well.
Yeah,
Someone's
definitely.
got something about them.
Yeah, but it's very much as well. Like obviously with her, and she is like, I know she's proud. She says to me all the time, but I want to keep like that. It's also nice. Do you know what I mean? Because obviously we've been together nearly 10 years now, and a lot's changed in our 10 years. And obviously it's nice now to be able to, you know, allow her to be a stay-at-home mum. And don't get me wrong, she helps me in the business.
And especially as your business grows, you never know. She may end up doing something there or helping around.
That's it. It's still early.
As far as you keep going with your passion and you're doing and you growing your business, that's the best thing. And you're giving great examples to everybody around. So
good, thank you.
This is what you want. What are the next plans? Obviously, you said you will probably looking for someone else to come on board, which is good news. You mentioned to us that obviously for the last month your business really
off.
Obviously LinkedIn, obviously sort of like, as you said, I mean LinkedIn's a huge market.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, there's lots of other platforms, I guess, as well.
There is, yeah. I mean, I'm fortunate that through my networking journey, I've met lots of other marketers that specialise in other things that I've got no real desire to go into. So, if I ever get an inquiry, I can then pass it over to that way. But I was just looking; it was the LinkedIn thing's been on my mind for a little bit. I saw a stat: 46 million people in the UK use LinkedIn, which is 61% of the population.
Yeah, it's huge.
So you have got your ideal business and customer on there. And again, it's a time thing. Like everyone, what people say to me sometimes, like with the SEO side of things is, oh, I could learn to do that. I'm like, yeah, you could, but you've got to spend 6 months of your life and you've got to do 153 checkpoints. And it's the same with LinkedIn. Like, could someone learn to do nice weekly content and do community engagement? Of course they can. But it's having the time to do that, essentially.
Oh, I can definitely confirm that obviously with Richard, we've got lots of ideas, lots of things we want to do. But we are very pleased how everything started and the progress that we did. But we can see that there are quite few bits which we have to improve. Yeah. But we will improve with help. It's not us. Yeah. And that's the moment that you have to sit down and realize that, yes, you can learn. I'm learning all the time, both of us. We are reading a lot, learning, as you said, YouTube is a great place to learn lots of things. We go to some meetings, so it doesn't matter, books, everything. But the thing is that he's got his business as well. I've got my job. Yeah. Here we've got our efforts to find, obviously, our guests, to arrange lots of things. And we need to think that there are some bits that need to be left to the professionals. Because they're going to spend less time. They're going to do it much better than our efforts. But I assume this is coming with the time. And
I think for us as well, I mean, obviously, as a podcast and Meet Your Inspiration, it's always about the guest. You need certain types of people. You want it to be always interesting. So it's always finding that real balance.
This is our job. Our job is to find the guests. We need to find the people who will help with obviously all these. As you mentioned, obviously, either it's going to be marketing, either will be some other areas. And this is what lots of people need to realize.
It is.
Can't be one.
No, you can't. I saw
Or
something
two
the other day, and it said like if you're not an electrician, you want to try and rewire your house, you give it a good go, but the lights will flicker every time you turn the kettle on. And it's the same with you have to get the professionals in, and it's the same with most things within business. You can probably do most of them, but not very well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you have to utilize companies, and then everyone's got different goals and visions. Like the fortunate thing with my industry is that most people want to get new clients unless you're at capacity. So they're open to having a conversation about SEO or potentially LinkedIn marketing because of what it can do for them with regards to getting new clients. We're fortunate in that aspect. With regards to sort of future plans, I think definitely it will have to be getting someone on in the new year. If we keep growing the way we're growing, then this time next year we'll probably have a couple. Like, I don't know. Like, I really want to cement ourselves as like the number one go-to local SEO agency, definitely in Kent, to start with, and then I want to branch out into like the neighbouring counties. And I think we're not far off of that anyway. To be fair, like through the networking, when people need local SEO support, they tend to find us now. But I definitely think I want to dip my toe in the LinkedIn world a little bit more. Whether that will be having to employ someone to solely help with that, I really don't know. But I don't want to have my fingers in too many pies within the marketing world. I think I just want to, because the way I see it, Google Business Profile is great for certain industries. So if you are a plumber or if you're an accountant, and when regular people are Googling for a service, that's what Google's great for. If you're a commercial plumber and you're targeting big businesses, they're not necessarily going to go onto Google to find you. That will be on LinkedIn. So I want to keep both. I want to have both platforms covered, essentially. Some businesses are about to go on both. Some I might say, you need Google, you need LinkedIn. And then once that's covered, and then I'll be happy with that. And obviously we still do the websites, and essentially it's about helping people have a strong digital presence. That's what you need.
And as you said, there are lots of, I'm sure, competition, but it's something very important, and I'm sure lots of people will find it's this personal touch, the way how you're going to treat your customers. Because someone might be a great agency for some time, but if they lost this moment that they really care about their customers, they're going to go very quickly. When you are obviously genuine and it's not only the only tool is how you can take as much as business from them. It's a bit more to help them. I'm pretty sure that this is coming in return. There is no way to not come.
Exactly.
And once they're happy.
And also, you're very professional about it. I mean, obviously, when we followed up together afterwards, and you explained everything really clearly, and everything was well structured, and you followed up again. And in terms of from a sales point of view, you did everything possibly right. And also, you're also good at as well. So if it's not quite fitting at that moment, you left the door open. That's really important as well. And I think particularly in sales, when it's one of the things we all learn is about how you leave the door open. Even if something doesn't quite happen at that point, the opportunity is there, and you leave it with a sort of open hand and say, well, when you're ready, come.
And it's all about being honest as well. Like, as I say, and I'm not one to talk ill about other companies, but I've worked for businesses in the past that are not ethically right with the way they sell things, and they tie people into long contracts that they don't know about, and it's messy. And the way I see it is there's nothing worse. Why would you want to get a new customer on and in 6 months' time end up having a row with them because you've tied them into something or you've not done the... So I'm very honest. Like, if anything, I'm probably too honest. I do myself out of business sometimes. We've only had one profile that I haven't been able to get working. And I called up the client and I just said to her, I'm going to be completely honest. I said, I've done everything. I've done it all. I said, and for some reason, it's improved a bit, but it's not. I said, what you're paying me, it's not valid because I'm not giving you results. I said, do you want to stop? She wouldn't appreciate your honesty. She wouldn't, let's give it another 3 months. And then I managed to make it work. But she said to me, like, no one has ever said to her, called her and said, do you want me to stop? Because it has to be right.
It has to be right. But obviously this is your experience because you've seen bad and good. And in your work ethic, you decided which side you want to be. And this will definitely bring you more and more people, just because people will realize nowadays it's full of people who really try to write the sales service or product or whatever just to sell, and they don't care about you as the customer. Where when you care about them, you can see how different. And as it is, look, she didn't say, "Oh no, I'm fed up with you."
Mhm.
When you've got this approach, of course, she understands. And months later,
That's
and
it.
as you said, your business is not something that you switch today and tomorrow
Mm.
the numbers are up.
Mm. Yeah, one thing I need to, if anything, I make myself too available. My wife always says this, like I might get an email at like 8 o'clock at night on a Thursday and I email back. She's like, just chill. She's like, if you email him in the morning, it doesn't matter. But it's just because...
You're still building your business.
Yeah, and because I genuinely, I honestly do, like, honestly care. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, and I've been the same with when I've had other jobs. Like I'm always, if I sign a customer up, there is some form of a relationship there that they've.
Yes, but you as a person,
Exactly.
you should have your
Yeah.
kind of limit, and let's say
Yeah,
either
and
it's going to be home time, either it's going to be your boys' time, because as you said, tomorrow you might be on a school event or whatever.
Yeah.
You can't reply.
Yeah, I'm learning. I am
Yeah.
slowly sort of cutting back, but I think the nature of the beast is I just
just want to do it now.
Just if I see an email, I'm like, thinking, who's that? You know, so I'll just jump on
but
it.
it's
So
a good thing. So you will find your way. So I would say thank you very much for your
Pleasure.
time, for coming, for again another showing that we had a quick chat with you, but again your story took me. I would never expect what to see, but this is what I love on this podcast because I need to make it clear we never talk too much about the past of our guests or what's going on. We live at the moment of the talk, and this is the best part because we can see.
And if anyone wants to find you, where will they find you, Dan?
Anywhere.
No. So you'll find it on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, my website, www.levelupleads.co.uk, or any networking event, pretty much in Kent. Or on a Saturday, if Jules are at home, you'll find me down the pub and down the football there, so you can come find me. Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent.
Perfect.
Dan, thank you very much.
Pleasure. Enjoyed it. It was good.
Pleasure.
Yeah, it's good. So thank you very much, everyone, for watching this morning. We hope you've enjoyed today's episode with Dan. And if you're watching us on YouTube, please do give us a like. And if you can find the time, just press the subscribe button. We'd really appreciate that. It really helps us. And if you're watching or listening on Spotify, please do give us a follow. Thank you very much. And we hope you have a great day. Thanks a lot.